Good evening. My name is Evan Plager, and I'm the producer of tonight's program.
Logical Fallacies is an improvised debate show based on a premise created by Alexander Nigro and Martin Gonzalez.
The participants, moderator included, are allowed no preparation regarding the topic or their positions upon it. To maintain the improvisation of the debaters, we present their theses in one take. Everything you see will be completely unscripted and was performed in front of a live audience. As such, the statements made during the program may contain harsh language and other mature sensibilities. And so, in honor of such great debaters as Truffaut, Lincoln, Parmenides, Schirmer, and Peller, I hereby present to you Logical Fallacies.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Logical Fallacies. I'm your host, Brett Werner. On my right here, we have Mr. Frank Cuppulo.
Hello.
And on my left here, we have Mr. Arnold Fanglehorn.
Pleasure to be here.
Likewise. Thank you, gentlemen, for
Yes.
showing up. Now, both of these gentlemen stand very strongly on opposite points from one another. Now, the topic we have planned to discuss today is vampires. Old and new.
Oh, yes.
On my left here, Arnold likes to indulge himself in the older generation of vampires, while on my right, Frank here enjoys the newer generation of vampires. Gentlemen, if I could have some opening statements from you, starting with you, Arnold, please.
The vampire is a very old legend of monster that goes back hundreds of years. And the vampire itself has remained largely unchanged up until, I would say, I mark the point as being the 1970s, when Anne Rice first came out with her books. To me, these new breed of vampires, going from Anne Rice forward, has just been pure blasphemy. There is a definition of a vampire, and to say that the vampire is something that it is not is the same thing as to say that this microphone is just a floppy turd. They're not the same thing. You cannot apply the name of something to something that it simply isn't.
Thank you, Arnold. Frank, if you'd please.
Yes, vampires are a thing of legend. Ever since I remember one of the first movies was whatever the hell it was.
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu. Whatever. How do you say it?
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu. Yes, I remember this, and I'm like, this isn't real. I mean, you could tell this is like Halloween. This is fake. But with new vampires, new age vampires, you can tell the realism of it. And there's love. Ever since we're going from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or from things like Twilight, there's always a love entanglement in it. And they're in that entanglement because they do not look like Halloween costumes.
It's interesting that you mentioned Halloween costumes in your opening statement, because that was actually my first question.
Oh.
Is referring the old costumes, or the legend of real vampires, compared with the new costumes, or what they are, costumes.
Right.
So, Frank, if you'd like to keep talking about the costumes.
Well, it's technically not costumes the way it used to be. It's kind of more of a hair, makeup, glam kind of thing. And I think it works. It appeals to audiences today. Something that the old vampires don't do. This style gives a realism that can never be done to Tales of the Vampire. And I think it's brilliant that we have the way it is now, that it doesn't look absolutely terrifyingly fake.
Arnold?
The reason vampires were for many decades, a very popular costume for children to dress up on Halloween is because they are scary. They are a legitimate monster. They crawl out of their coffins at night and suck your blood with no mercy and leave you a husk of a person, either dead or turned to become one of them, depending on the circumstance. The modern vampire has stripped the meaning of that costume away. This is why children do not dress like modern vampires, is because even little kids know these are not vampires, these are not monsters, this is not something I should be afraid of. They are not the same thing.
Frank, did you have an argument to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason children dress up like that is because it's the cheapest alternative to a Halloween costume, bottom line.
The reason children dress up at all on Halloween, historically, has been such that they can disguise themselves as demons and monsters in order to ward off evil spirits who might take them in the middle of the night.
I agree.
This meaning, historically, has since unfortunately been lost, and this has also led to what I call the Slaughterween epidemic that has also been sweeping the nation, but that's a topic for another day. However, I do still feel very strongly that dressing up like a modern vampire is simply, as I said, blasphemy, because you are not dressing up as anything even remotely scary or something to be feared.
All right. And so, where do you stand on realism of vampires? How they are depicted today, is this an evolutionary change in real vampires, or are they fake completely?
No, I think it's the entertainment industry, frankly. They have took vampires and tried to appeal them to all age audiences instead of just like a 16-plus demo audience that they originally had. So they want to make more money off of this. So technically, through the Hollywood aspect, it's about making money. But, what's your question?
Are vampires real?
No, they are not.
Arnold?
Yes, they are very much,
Please.
absolutely.
Elaborate more, please.
This is one of the other reasons that it is such a travesty that we are seeing modern vampires. Is because it has become very, I wouldn't say disgraceful in the traditional sense. The main issue, I think, with this epidemic, and the real reason I wanted to stand so strongly in opposition to the modern vampire, is because I think that real vampires have infiltrated Hollywood, and they are trying to make themselves accepted in society before they take us by storm, and we cannot let that happen. They must remain demonized so that
That is
they
a
do not
strong...
suck our blood and eat our children and fuck my wife.
That is a very strong accusation,
Well,
Arnold. So, if vampires are real, do you think they may be infiltrating Hollywood?
well, I, in fact, do not believe they are real. But yes, the theme of vampires is infiltrating Hollywood. It's bringing in money. It's a cash cow.
He has a point there.
It is the cash cow. You know what it also is? A blood cow. You know what cows have? They have blood.
Yes.
They have more blood than they have cash, I can tell you that. I've met many cows. Some of my best friends are cows. And this new acceptance of vampires has completely left us vulnerable. As it is, Christianity is going downhill in this country. The rates are going downhill of people who carry crosses around them. Ever since the American Health Association has recommended we cut our sodium intake, people don't even have as much salt in their house. Everywhere you look, you are seeing signs that the vampires are weakening our resolve to resist their efforts to take us.
And are you afraid that a vampire apocalypse may be upon us?
Absolutely. If this trend of new vampires who are to be accepted by society continues, we will never again be able to keep them under the heel of our foot as we have since the 1500s.
Yes, man, no offense to you, but you're obviously delusional. I mean,
I resent
frankly, I mean, there could never be a vampire apocalypse. Zombie, maybe. I mean, it's real people. I mean, people coming back to life. Zombies are coming back to life, but I don't know. They just have a weird vendetta.
This debate has taken a weird turn.
Yes,
so we
it
have
has.
a man who knows for a fact, yes, that vampires are real.
Absolutely.
And then another man who suspects the zombie apocalypse may be beginning.
Yes, soon, within the next few years, possibly.
And what is your evidence behind this?
Our society is changing. Ever since our new president took office, just things have been going downhill, and I think some kind of virus is going to spread and just wipe us out.
And gentlemen, who may prevail if both, say, vampires and zombies were to...
Absolutely, I would say vampires, and there are several reasons for this. One, there's a fundamental staple of life called homeostasis, and zombies simply do not possess it. Any zombie outbreak will quickly fade because the zombie anatomy is exposed to all kinds of disease and physical destruction. The vampires, on the other hand, are not restricted by such means. They are able to inherit the nutrients of blood from any person or creature without the body rejecting it. They are immune to many of our diseases as such because they've built up these resistances over hundreds of years. The vampires are simply much more physically and intellectually capable of destroying the human race than zombies will ever be, whether or not they exist, which I also doubt.
And Frank, a rebuttal.
Well, Dracula comes from it's just a legend. I mean, it was a story. I don't see where you're getting hyped up about this, about actually these events taking place. It's somebody created this in their head. Now, zombies, on the other hand, Dr. Alban Sai, he actually resurrected his dead mother. She caught the virus, she actually came alive, and that's how we know proof of zombies.
Right, but where is that mother now? She's re-dead.
Yes, she is.
Just as any other zombie outbreak will quickly result in being re-dead.
The difference is, she was real and vampires aren't.
Vampires are simply real. The reason so many people still do not believe in the true existence of vampires is because, like we cannot see their reflections in mirrors, it is not simply that we cannot see the reflections in mirrors. We cannot see their physical form refracted through light, which means we cannot catch them on camera either. But that does not mean that they are not real. It simply means we cannot view them. The same way argument could be made for saying that dark matter doesn't exist. We don't have photographic evidence of dark matter because it doesn't interact with light. In fact, that is a theory that has been making the rounds, which states that vampires may in fact be partially composed of dark matter or some other non-light refracting substance.
I mean, saying that, that could mean anything that you don't see as real. I mean, aliens. You could just say aliens are real.
Aliens
Couldn't
are real.
you?
Aliens are real, Frank.
Jeez. Okay, so say aliens were real. I mean, this is all stuff that there's no scientific proof about.
So, let me ask you this. If vampires aren't real, how do you explain the fact that I once found my wife with bite marks on her neck, moaning ecstatically, and the window was open when I got home?
Well,
How do you explain that?
Please explain
The
that.
only explanation is vampires. That is what she told me. Are you calling my wife a liar?
I'm guessing that probably your wife was the neighbor, so.
No, that's absolutely patently absurd. And I will not stand for that.
Maybe not the neighbor, but somebody.
Yes, a vampire. And
Or some perverted
this
man.
This is not a penis in a vagina, as you're insinuating. This is a fang into a vein.
Sure.
A vangina with a fangness.
A vangina.
No, the fang is the
Okay.
penis.
The fang is the penis.
Yeah, so a fangness.
Phallus.
Yes.
Right.
Checkmate.
It's the only logical explanation for it.
Goodness. But, you shouldn't believe everything. I mean, things just come to your mind. I mean, you you just assume that your wife has been taken by a vampire.
I didn't assume. That is what she told me.
She told you this.
Yes. And she was ice cold to the touch, as if blood
Could
had
your
been drained from
wife
her.
have been high on acid?
No. She, to my knowledge, has stopped that since college.
Right. Well, I mean, it's nothing to be ashamed about. I mean, I've frequently taken it once in a while. But, I mean, excuse me.
Everything all right?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Just getting a little hyped up.
Well,
Sorry.
gentlemen, do you have any further questions for each other?
Yes, I would like to ask my opponent something.
All right. Please direct your question towards me, and I will
Tell him.
invert it.
Yeah, you're
through
probably
him.
afraid of a fight breaking out, and that is
Yes.
understandable.
Yes. Very understandable.
Yes. Do you think that the reason modern vampires have taken Hollywood by storm is simply because they are less terrifying. As we all know, audiences now are, well, wusses when it comes to this sort of thing. Horror has never drawn particularly large crowds, so I think, whereas romantic comedies have always made way more money.
Yes.
So the fact that we're romancing vampires is the only reason, and that, in fact, the classical model of vampire is truly the superior one.
Right. But some people may think that. I respect your opinion to agree with the classical vampire.
Mm-hmm.
I do. That's what this debate is about. It's about classic versus new.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with your side. I mean, it's good for some people. But for a mass audience, and for most of America currently, the modern day vampire is what's in. It's what's bringing in the budget, it's what's bringing in the money, it's what's taking America by storm. Love, vampires, sex, True Blood, Buffy, Twilight, all coming together, and it's just making a great big boom.
Thank you. And Frank, do you have a question for Arnold over here? It is okay if you don't. We will move on to the audience questions.
I think I've discussed everything I need to discuss with this man.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from our studio audience? Any at all? No?
They know the
Okay.
truth. They know the truth.
It appears that they do.
Yes.
Good job, gentlemen. You answered any question they may have had. And so we will now move on to our closing statements. Since I don't remember who started, you did. Yes, so we'll move on to over here to Frank, if you would please give us your closing statement.
All right. Modern vampires are the future. They are the way to go. I mean, it's all about money and big business. And money is where it's all at. And these new vampires are bringing in money. So that's what we're going to continue to do. Screw the old vampires. We're going to stick with the new ones because they're bringing in money. And zombies are real.
Thank you, Frank. And Arnold, closing statement.
Do not screw the old vampires. The old vampires do not screw. The new vampires are the ones that screw, and that is a falsification. Vampires are real, and they are trying to weaken your resolve against them. Do not sympathize with them. They will betray you and suck your blood, and my wife is a faithful woman. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This has been another episode of
Logical fallacy.
Logical Fallacies. Thank you.
And so concludes our discussion for the evening. We hope that all of you enjoyed yourselves and perhaps even learned something tonight. I certainly know I did. From all of us here at Logical Fallacies, I'm Evan Plager. Thank you and good night.
Logical Fallacies is a production of Penny Farthing Entertainment. If you have questions or comments about the topic or for tonight's participants, please let us know in the comment section for this video, and they might be addressed in our viewer response segment. Be sure to like, favorite, and share this video, as well as subscribe to Logical Fallacies. Programs by Penny Farthing Entertainment are made possible by viewers like you.